Have you ever applied to a bank account online and you get about 60% of the way through that application and then you get this annoying little pop-up that shows up on your screen and it says something like, sorry, it appears that you may not be eligible to open the account. Or it may just be something like, sorry, we need you to come into the branch to verify your identity. Well, unfortunately, this is a really standard response. And that's because most banks do require you to show up in person. And that's true whether you're opening for a personal account or a business account, which is pretty crazy when you think about the fact that we had this huge surge in remote account opening during COVID, which tells us that the banks are totally capable of onboarding clients remotely, but they're choosing not to. And of course, there are various reasons for this, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the point is, it's expensive to show up and time consuming. And there's never a guarantee that you're actually going to get the account open, especially if you're a foreign non-resident or you're looking to open accounts for a foreign non-resident company. That's why dollar for dollar, remote bank account opening is still the best option out there. So in this video, I'm gonna share the process that you can actually use to open bank accounts remotely from the comfort of your own home without ever getting on an airplane. If this is your first time on the channel, my name is Chris. I'm the head of banking relationships here at GlobalBanks. We're a team of banking experts that decode international banking and solve cross-border problems for businesses and individuals. I get to spend all of my time talking to bankers, solving banking problems, and uncovering new opportunities for our clients. And in these videos, I share the secrets that banks will not tell you, but they're happy to share with us so that you can start to unlock the benefits of international banking right now. Okay, first off, let's make sure we're on the same page. Remote opening is exactly what it sounds like. Opening a bank account without physically showing up in person. It's pretty simple, right? But what's interesting is that there are a few different ways to actually go about opening accounts without showing up in person, which I'm gonna outline in this video. But first, I just wanna hammer home this one point. While remote account opening is not as easy as it used to be, it is still 100% doable for most people, despite what all of the talking heads out there are gonna tell you. In fact, I'd say about 95% of the clients that we help at GlobalBanks actually open those bank accounts completely remotely without ever getting on a plane. So if you're looking to open accounts without ever traveling, you do have options. Now, before we go on, if you're interested in these types of videos, just do me a favor. Hit the like button so we know we should keep making more of these for you in the future. Okay, a few quick notes on why remote account opening is actually challenging. And it's not just because of the banks and them choosing not to accept your application online. First, there are about 15 three-letter acronyms that slow down the entire account opening process. We've written about all of these in our free articles over at globalbanks.com, and they include KYC, EDD, AML, CFT, BSA, CRS, and many, many more. Basically, what all of these mean is that the bank needs to know who you are, what you're doing, and why you're sending and receiving money. That's pretty much it. And each bank's compliance team needs to be comfortable with all of those different variables when assessing your application. That is a lot harder for banks to do when you're sitting in Seattle and the bank is in Switzerland, which is why they prefer face-to-face appointments. It basically de-risks the onboarding for them. And on top of that, the fact that banking laws, compliance, rules, and internal procedures are the strictest that they've ever been in history, it keeps banks on the best behavior. And again, no problem, you can open remotely. I'm just trying to paint a picture here to give you a sense of why opening accounts remotely is so tough. Tough, but not impossible. All right, a few important considerations before you decide which country and bank to open accounts with remotely. Domestic banking regulations, internal bank policies, and the experience of similar customers at the banks that you're considering. Not surprisingly, finding that information is pretty tough, and finding it and knowing that it's accurate is even more difficult. So you can obviously try searching the internet, analyzing bank policies, looking at past opening data, and reviewing peer experiences, but that information is pretty time-consuming to find and then analyze. Hard to qualify, and if you choose the wrong bank to assess, you've just wasted hundreds of hours. If you want to shortcut the process, you can access all of that data inside GlobalBanks IQ, or you let our team do the heavy lifting for you with GlobalBanks Insider. But you can also go through the whole process yourself. Just make sure that you take your time and qualify the banks before digging in too far. Actually, when it comes to qualifying banks, there are a few red flags that you should watch out for. Low quality banks, really high fees, poor customer support, understaffed compliance departments, erratic account freezes or closures, and unpredictable correspondent banking relationships. I'll probably do a video on each of these in the future, so if you care about these topics at all or about opening accounts remotely, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get alerted when we post those videos. Now, if any of these red flags show up, it doesn't mean that a bank is completely off the charts and you shouldn't open there. Instead, it just means that you should take a closer look and examine if the bank is likely to meet your expectations in terms of quality, stability, safety, and convenience. I'm saying all this because most people associate remote account opening with easy account opening, and that's really the entirely wrong way to go about it. If you take that approach, you're gonna end up with a bank that could freeze your account, lose correspondence, or worse. And we've seen this happen in both very reputable banking jurisdictions as well as some of the more backwater jurisdictions that you probably don't want to bank in. The point is, you don't want to bank with banks that have non-existent customer verification, and if banks require you to have a local introducer, that typically is a sign that they're probably not going to be the best bank for you to work with, even though introducers can help you open bank accounts much easier than going about it yourself in certain instances if they're reputable. But there's one big point that I don't want you to miss out on, and that's the fact that the bank does not have long-standing and stable correspondent banking relationships. And this is super important, especially if you're looking to bank in foreign markets or in a country that effectively doesn't have its own currency. If you're finding banks that don't have stable correspondence that can be relied on to get your money in and out of the account, just run the other way. Unfortunately, that does mean that a few countries are going to be completely off your list, but those options shouldn't be on your list to begin with. You want an account that will last, and you want an account where you can actually access your money, right? These are the minimum standards that you should be setting for yourself and for the account that you're going to open. Now, let's talk actionable steps to actually start remotely opening your account. Like I said at the start of the video, there are a few methods that you can use to actually open accounts remotely with a number of banks around the world. The method that's going to work best for you will depend on your risk profile, how much you can deposit, and where you're trying to open an account. Now, the first method, which is not surprisingly the most popular method that people use, is applying online through a bank's website. Not only is this efficient, it's sometimes a requirement, depending on where the bank is domiciled, which just means where they operate and are regulated. And in a lot of instances with expat banking, you'll find that banks actually require customers to go through that onboarding process first. If you do go down this path, you need to confirm your identity and all of your personal information ahead of time, provide all the supporting documents, and meet the bank's KYC and AML requirements through the website. But what a lot of people don't realize is just because certain customers can apply through a website and successfully open an account, that doesn't mean that all customers can go through that process. A good example of this is in the United States, where US citizens who live and reside in the US can open accounts through websites at basically all banks. But as soon as you're outside of the US, even as a US citizen, that option is usually no longer available to you. Obviously, there are exceptions, and we help our clients navigate those options through our account opening services, GlobalBanks USA and GlobalBanks Insider. But generally speaking, they are more difficult to access even for US citizens who are living abroad. The second method to open accounts remotely is choosing alternative locations. Quick disclaimer here, this is not fully remote. We know that, you don't have to make a comment, but it does give you the option to open a bank account without actually traveling to the bank. And in most instances, bankers, especially from private banks, are more than happy to get on a plane and meet you if you're in a large city. So you can be outside of your country of residence or tax domicile and expect to have bankers show up at your door. Now, basically, there are a range of different banks that will meet you in different cities. As I mentioned, this is a favorite for private banks, especially when clients could represent a sizable deposit. But even then, the banks tend to only travel, as I said, to major cities. Think London, New York, Paris, Miami, Rio, Madrid, etc., etc. Again, you'll still have to go through the same onboarding process that you'd undergo if you visited your branch in person. You can just do it from a neutral location or from the comfort of your hotel room. But at least by taking this approach, you can reduce the overall time and the cost of opening accounts by making the bank travel to you instead of changing your travel plans or going to the country where you actually want to domicile the account. If this is an option you'd like to explore more, go ahead and check us out at globalbanks.com, contact us however you want, and we'll help you navigate the different options that are available to you. Now, the third method, which is easily the most common that we've seen over the last few years, is opening through a virtual meeting. It's basically exactly what you think it is. Virtual calls through Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or other virtual platforms in order to talk to the banker as if you were sitting in the same room. Unfortunately, not all banks offer this option. In fact, most banks do not offer virtual meetings as an account opening method. The main reason for this is that banks need to invest in authentication software and have the internal capabilities to verify your identity, supporting documents, and complete the entire onboarding process remotely, which many of them are opting not to do. And even those banks that do invest in these online tools, they only offer remote opening to certain clients and above certain thresholds. So you'll need to know which banks actually want you as a customer and match your desired deposit. But before you know which bank to apply to, you need to know which countries to consider. So instead of just telling you to go figure it out on your own, I've asked the team to include a link to our detailed guide on where to open accounts in the pinned comment below. This includes expert briefings on 10 excellent banking hubs, including who should open in each jurisdiction, the pros and cons of opening, the hurdles to overcome, and a lot more detailed information that's going to help you get started in the process. Just click the link below, grab your copy, and start navigating the process on your own. But if you prefer to have your own team of banking experts help you navigate the account opening process, check out globalbanks.com/products to see the available options that you can choose from. But before you do, if you've made it this far in the video, don't forget to give us a like so we know that we should keep making more videos like this. And if you're ready to take your international banking to the next step, here's another video that's going to walk you through the realities of anonymous banking and what options actually exist today without crossing the line.